My name is Youness Abouyoub. I work for the United Nations. I cover issues of governance, state building, and conflict resolution, in mostly focusing on Middle East and Africa. We all know that most of African countries have gained their independence in the 60s, and they've been trying to chart their path to development by their own means, in their own way, but they were caught during that period in the Cold War between two different systems, two big blocs that they were fighting East and West. And after the 90s, with the demise of the Soviet bloc, there was one particular model that was basically the mainstream narrative in terms of development for the whole world, based on Bretton Woods institutions, IMF, World Bank, and the Washington Consensus. That turns to be, after the 2000, more into neoliberal policies that actually made the state role in creating development for their citizens less and less important, and private markets have taken basically the role of the state. This has led to many crises around many countries in the world, and mostly in Africa, which still need a strong state, strong public sector, development state that provides public services that are essential for development, and namely education, public health, and other basic services that citizens need for their own human development. So I think it is time that we allow more space for these countries to chart their own way towards development. There's no one size fits all in terms of sustainable development. I think, of course, it depends on each state to evaluate and assess what they believe in terms of the benefits they gain from these initiatives. But from what I have seen, working around the globe and dealing with issues of governance and sustainable development, I think this has been welcomed by many countries in Africa. We see the increasing development of exchange and partnership between China and many African countries, and also Arab countries, which signals that there is a mutual benefit from these increasing exchange. And I think the BRI would probably in the future develop even further. And after all, the Belt and Road Initiative is probably new in its actual version, but it's actually something that is old, thousands of years, because we know that this has been the link between the East and the rest of the world for hundreds and hundreds of years. So I think it looks, for most of these countries that I've visited, as a positive development. I think BRI will be what the partners would like it to be, because at the end of the day, these countries are sovereign states. They have tried different paths of development. As I said earlier, the mainstream narrative, the one-size-fits-all model that was imposed post-independence on many countries has failed. It has not created the development that most of these countries wanted. So now it's only normal that they've turned towards other partners, and China has provided a new partnership based on mutual benefit, mutual positive development for both. And I think it has been shown by experience that it's working. So I believe the future will tell us that this initiative will probably grow even further if most of these countries see that it's their benefit to continue it. Besides the issues of trade and commerce, which are important, I think there are issues of technology, transfer of technology, which has been a major problem for most of developing countries. They have been asking most of developed countries to provide them with technology transfer, but it has always been denied. So most of these developed countries have seen the countries of the Global South as mainly markets for their goods, or as a cheap labor or cheap natural resource provision. So now it's probably time that China, which is one of the big technological producer, to provide that technology transfer for these countries so they can allow them to develop their own means. This is one thing. This is another way or another field. It's in terms of governance and institutional building. China has basically created huge development in terms of lifting 1 billion people almost out of poverty through an effective system of governance, through public service, through a strong and effective institutions. This is lacking in most of these developing countries. So it's not enough to have natural resources. You should have the expertise, the skills, and the performing institutions in terms of economic, social, and political that could provide that type of development for their citizens. The third one is in terms of fighting climate change and renewable energy. Last but not least, there is a change, a global shift in terms of global governance and the international order that's been defied, and many countries want to create a more multilateral system, a global order based on more fairness, equity, and representations. And I think there is a way to develop that. That's part of one of the SDGs, which promotes ways of having more developing countries having stronger votes, stronger representations in international organizations. And I think China and developing countries can work together to create a more equal multilateral system. I completely agree with President Xi. Modernization or the issue of development and economic growth should put people at the center. Economy should work for people, not people working for the economy. We're not looking for economic growth for the sake of economic growth. We're doing economic growth to create human development, to provide for a more decent living for people, all people. And I think today it's high time that we end hunger in the world, we end poverty, and it's possible. It's an issue that we still see in many developing countries. And if we could work together with China, with others, to create something better to serve humanity, that could be an excellent way of partnering. I think the global order that was created post-World War II has shown its limits. It is time now that we think of a new world order that treats in a fair way, in an equal way, all the members of the international community. That means the system of international governance should be reformed deeply, and I think China with other players from the developing countries could play that role. I think now that China is more open to the world and trying to play a more positive role in terms of politics beyond the trade and economics and development. So maybe I see a role in terms of resolving the conflict in Ukraine, resolving conflicts that have torn the global south, and mostly now we see what's happening in Palestine, what we see in the Middle East, and also in Africa. So it is clear that there is a chance for peace, and we cannot have development without peace. I see a world based on solidarity, not a world based on competition, because competition has led the world into major conflict and major problems, whether these are global conflicts or small-scale conflict that we see in the global south. I think we have to rethink the global system and create new institutions that are stronger, more equal, fair in the distribution of power. You know, at the United Nations, there is more and more question of looking at the issue of representations and looking at how the Security Council works, its mechanisms, the number of members in it. The veto issue should also be looked at. But most of all, I think the General Assembly should be more strengthened because it is the most representative body in the UN. But beyond the institution itself, I think it is time now that we create a world that is based on solidarity between all members of the international community, especially that we're all facing a major threat, which is climate change. And if we don't work together to resolve that problem, I think the whole humanity will be in major danger. I think the main problem is the way a human being acts and think. I believe that throughout human history, we've been trying to create a world that is based on rights, but unfortunately, so far we have been living in a world that is based on power. To find the mechanisms and the international consensus to create a system that is right-based, not a system that is power-based. And as long as we don't find our way towards a system based on rights and rule of law and only on power, we're just going to have more and more conflicts and more and more misery around the world. Now that we're faced by many dangers around the globe, it is high time that we sit, talk to each other, find peaceful ways of resolving conflict and disputes, create a system that is mutually beneficial to all human beings all around the world. It's not an issue of race or ethnicity or religion. It's about the brotherhood of man all over the world. And I think the three initiatives that are timely, and it's high time that the world looks at these initiatives and treat them seriously, and we sit and work together to create this new world.